Further debate? The member for Waterloo.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And as the critic for Finance and for Treasury Board, of course, it is my pleasure to stand in my place in this House and address the fall economic statement and the legislation G43. Now, before I start, I just have to comment that the disconnect that this government has between what is actually happening in the province of Ontario, that gap is getting wider and wider. And this fall economic statement proves that on several fronts. When I did respond to the delivery of the FES when the minister stood in his place, I said very clearly, the fall economic statement is a key opportunity to communicate with Ontarians. It should clearly articulate, what does this government stand for? Who are you working for? Have you been listening to people? And are you prepared to demonstrate some courage and act on those issues? And given the year, the last 19 months, 20 months that we have had in this province, the fact that this fall economic statement, this mini budget, misses the mark so profoundly, Madam Speaker, is bizarre. I mean, you have to actively have been spending your entire summer up at the cottage, not listening to radio, not on social media, not talking to neighbours, to be so completely disconnected from the true struggles and challenges that Ontarians face on a day-to-day basis. On education, on health care, on childcare, and climate change. Yes, Madam Speaker, climate change. 2 words that this document fails to address in any way, shape, or form. Instead, it showed Ontarians that this Premier doesn't want to spend the money on health care and education that they deserve, because on this side of the House, we have given full credit to the resiliency that Ontarians have demonstrated through this pandemic. They stood up. They went out and fought for their rights, be they on the front line in healthcare or front line in education. Teachers and education workers fought for their students, Madam Speaker. And so what we have here is an absence of leadership you know, quite honestly, it's almost a level of ignorance that I've never seen from any government, given what we now know about how all of our futures, our health, our well-being, our economy are connected to building Ontario up, which this document pretends to do, Madam Speaker. So there's 4 areas that I'm going to focus on, because what is very telling about this document is what is missing in this document. On education and childcare. I mean, if you had told me that Jason Kenney would have got a childcare deal, $10 a day, before the province of Ontario, I literally would have put money on that bet. I would have gambled on that, because it is embarrassing. It is a shameful state of affairs that this province does not have a childcare deal with a government that has put $10 billion on the table, given the fact that women have paid the highest price during this pandemic. Speaker, I mean, what is going on? We have a Minister of Education that thinks that full-day kindergarten is early learning and care. You can't negotiate a contract retroactively for a program that has already been in place in Ontario. I mean, there are words for that. They are very unparliamentary, I would say. So on the education front as well, to see a government actively pull out almost $500 million, $467 million from base funding from education. This tells me, Speaker, that this education minister, that these members across the aisle have no direct connection to education. And you know, you and I both came from education. The learning interruption piece that our educators are facing right now is profound. I was speaking to an early childhood educator over the weekend. There's a new term in early learning and care. It's called COVID toddlers, because they have not grown up watching facial expressions. So their language acquisition is delayed. They haven't been able to make that kind of contact and that social interaction and that play-based learning. And what is this government doing? Playing chicken with Justin Trudeau on an early learning and care strategy? I mean, time is of the essence. There is urgency at play in this place. And this is it's almost like there's some machismo sort of, who can like get the most amount of money. It is amateur hour here in Ontario. The fact that we do not have a childcare strategy and a childcare deal with the federal government is a complete failure of leadership on this file. Hear, hear. The other issue that we're facing, and I feel strongly about this because there's going to be a cost to not intervening. This is what we know about early learning and care, is that you resource early, you intervene early. And when I look at all the stakeholders who weighed in on the fall economic statement, Carolyn Ferns from the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, this is a direct quote from her. She says, "It's called the Build Ontario Plan, but you don't just build Ontario with roads and highways. Childcare builds Ontario. Early childhood educators build Ontario. They are going to be essential to our economic recovery." And so what is really, interesting and a little bit boring at this stage in the game is that who this government actually listens to, because they don't listen to women who are on the front line of these sectors, and they've been consistently absent on that front. The other key piece about this fall economic statement is on health care. Now, why this government, at this stage in the game, with 200 days left before the election, doesn't understand that you cannot build a long-term bed without a nurse. And so we are still fighting this government shoulder to shoulder with frontline healthcare workers across Ontario, shoulder to shoulder with them, to repeal Bill 124. Why do you think that a nurse should work for less money during a healthcare crisis, given the mental health and the emotional and the physical challenges that they have faced all through this pandemic, and you call them heroes, but you offer them less than pennies? Less than pennies. I mean, how can you even walk around your neighborhood and look at a nurse in the eye when they have been facing hellish circumstances in our hospitals and in our congregate settings and in long-term care? How can you look them in the eye after all of this time and say to them, "We value you, but you are worth pennies"? This is an insult that I've rarely seen, this kind of disrespect for the very people who build Ontario up. You cannot build Ontario up without investing in people. We know that for sure on this side of the aisle. The other issue, this was an opportunity, and it's too bad the member from Brantford Brant didn't mention this, but this was an opportunity, and you would have had our full support if you had negotiated a deal for eye care in Ontario, and that should have been that should have been here. We believe that eye care is health care. In fact, we know we have all anecdotal circumstances across in our ridings, but I will tell you that my son's good friend, his optometrist caught his brain tumor. Think of the opportunities that we are missing on this front. And the optometrists have been fairly clear, as has the member, Ms. Marteau, last week. She came out and she said, listen, she issued a statement last week calling on her party, that would be you, to abandon the hard line it has taken with the Ontario Association of Optometrists. She says she's an optometrist herself, as the member from Brantford Brant is as well, and she argued her professional colleagues are in the right. This is, she broke ranks, although there's been a lot of people that have sort of been exited out of the party, but this is an intentional breaking of the ranks and an exposing the hardline tactics that this government has been making with optometrists. And she goes on to, she says their colleagues are on the right, and she poked holes in the province's justification for not yielding to the association's demand that it commit to covering the cost of OHIP eye services as a precondition to resuming negotiations. She called the government's current offer unsustainable and criticized the province for the heavy-handed tactics. So there's a whole new discourse on this tension and drawn out, tension between optometrists and the Minister of Health. And we all know, I mean, I've been getting 2, 3, sometimes 5 calls a week from parents who are concerned about their children who cannot access eye care and cannot see the board or the whiteboard in their classroom. At least we can acknowledge, we can find some common ground that this is an issue. It's an issue for seniors who can't drive. They can't get their licenses renewed. They want their independence. Seniors, just in case you don't know this, they vote. And they are mad. In fact, I have never seen so many activist seniors in Ontario. These are very different, of course, from the downtown activists who are fighting Highway 413, who actually apparently live in the Minister of Transportation's riding, and they're very upset that they've been called downtown activists. And millionaires, yes. Yeah. You can't forget the millionaires in the Minister of Transportation's riding. So this long drawn-out thing with optometrists is really, I mean, what is the game plan here? I mean, we want to know. The people of Ontario want to know. Like, how are you going to extricate yourself from this now 239 days, Madam Speaker? And this is from the Ontario Association of Optometrists site, and they're just putting this out there. We would like to provide you with an update on our discussions with the Ontario government. Unfortunately, since September 1st, millions of Ontarians have lost access to primary eye care services because the Ontario government continues to neglect optometry services. And here is the update. The number of days optometrists did not hear from the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health did not communicate with optometrists from December 5th of 2020 to August 5th of 2021. An independent third-party accounting firm, BDO, determined that the average operating cost for rent and staff and equipment to provide an eye exam in Ontario in 2019 without doctor compensation was $75.51. What does the government come back with? $48.43. So, and you know, the Minister of Health, interesting, because these things come back, right? They come back to bite you. With the pharmacists back in 2010, she said, why should the pharmacists have to pay to do the work that should be funded by the government? And well, I send the same question back to the Minister of Health on this. Why should optometrists be subsidizing, heavily subsidizing, the OHIP-funded patients, seniors, and childcare? Unless you've made a political decision that you no longer want to value eye care at all and don't see that it is a prevention piece on the healthcare file. So that level of frustration is off the charts. I mean, for some of us who were here when the Liberals were here, they always used to describe themselves as overachievers. Well, on this file, you are overachieving on an incompetence level that we haven't seen for quite some time. So, I mean, get back to the table. Seniors, children, vulnerable Ontarians, they need their eye exams. We need them to get access to that care. And also remember, I mean, a lot of optometrists during the pandemic never received any support from this government. I mean, so I don't know what the game plan is. Maybe you don't either. But it's going to become a huge political football. And I know that you care about your political fortunes because this document proves that. It proves that you are more concerned about your political fortunes than the very people that we serve. And so on health care, I'm including the repealing of Bill 124. Why it has taken so long, I have no idea, nor do the nurses. The optometrists are completely frustrated. You must be inundated. One of your own has broken ranks and revealed that there's really no strategy here, except that you want to play hardball. And I hope that the optometrists that sit on that side of the House can actually try to sway this Minister of Health to get eye care back in the healthcare realm. I mean, it's well overdue. On the issue of vaccines, I mean, I brought forward a motion to the floor of this legislature for mandatory vaccines for healthcare and education. We are seeing the numbers creep up, Madam Speaker. This should be concerning to all of us. Anthony Dale from the Ontario Hospital Association has said, listen, the folks that, when the Premier announced that we're not going to need passports in January, those people who were vaccine resistant, had a little party for themselves and decided, you know what, we're just going to wait it out. That said, their health and well-being is directly connected to our health and well-being, which is why a mandatory vaccine policy for the province of Ontario should have passed a long time ago. So emboldening anti-vaxxers is bad public health policy. I can't say it any more clearly than that, Madam Speaker. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. I mean, the nurses across Ontario have said, quite honestly, that they are very disappointed by the lack of courage of this Premier to bring in a provincial strategy. We're all in this together. What happened to that mantra? Now it's like every hospital, you have to survive on your own. Every school, you're on your own. And yet, last week, when the municipalities said, you know what, we're going to try to negotiate with the federal government, we're going to try to get our own childcare deal, forget this government, we can't wait any longer. And they're under pressure because obviously they understand the economic impact of investing in early learning and care. And what did the Premier said? Don't go out on your own, it never works well, let's all stick together on this childcare thing. And yet, he served everybody up on not bringing in a mandatory vaccine. This Premier is a walking contradiction. It reminds me of a Chris Christopherson song, and that is going way back, almost as far back as when the Highway 413 was a good idea. And so the inconsistencies that people in this province receive from this government undermine our democracy, and they undermine our health and well-being. And at the end of the day, if you do not realize this at this stage in the game, it undermines our economy. And I've already started to hear from businesses who are just starting to feel a little bit of relief, even the ones that didn't qualify for the small business grant. They started to feel a little bit hopeful, but now the numbers are going up. And the Ontario Hospital Association and the Science Table has said very clearly, those who are not vaccinated have now created some space for new variants of COVID-19. That is how this works. So because the Premier does not have the courage or the spine or the backbone to bring in a mandatory vaccine for education and healthcare workers, and as my motion laid out, congregate work locations, the most vulnerable disabled people who have nobody advocating for them. Because he has not demonstrated that kind of leadership, we all pay the price for that lack of leadership. Why you should have to explain that after 20 months of being in this pandemic, I don't understand. And so those are the education pieces, the childcare piece, the healthcare piece as well. And then we have a very clear political strategy by this government that they are like fully invested in this Highway 413 and Bradford bypass. Well, you have to go way back because it's a 1950s idea, where, induced demand is not a concept that we understand, that the more highways you build, the more cars go in those highways, the more congestion you generate. That is exactly what is going to happen. And we actually have research and evidence to prove it. But I'm going to start with the money, because there is no dollar figure for these two major infrastructure projects in the fall economic statement. There's no figure you can attach to it. There's some speculation. I mean, the Minister of Transportation has said she thinks the Bradford bypass will cost about $800 million. The Toronto Region Board of Trade says $1.5 billion minimum. So there's a lot of numbers floating around, but there's no numbers attached to these major infrastructure projects, and that should be a red flag for everybody who pays attention to this. But just on the money piece, we do have an independent auditor who, an audit. He is an independent auditor, but he's not the provincial auditor, but I'm getting to that in a second. His name is Charles Smedmore, and he did an analysis of the fall economic statement. And, as my colleague has already pointed out, the debt load is per family of four is now at $108,000 for a family of four, or $27,000 per Ontarian. And so I raise this because we need to be very cognizant about how we're investing, how we're generating revenue, where we are hoping to create good jobs for the future, which our Green New Democratic Deal highlights very clearly. Those ideas are there for you. But Charles has said, for the fiscal year, Ontario's net debt will be now $402 billion. Ontario's population now exceeds 14.8 million people. As I said, each person's debt exceeds $27,000. But not disclosed in the fall economic statement is the $10.9 billion the cost for Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass and the Morriston bypasses in Guelph. They've been promised that for many years. The minister has said, you know what, like there was a full-on election election sort of junket last week where, the Premier said the same thing over and over and over again about Bradford Bypass and Highway 413. But Ontarians were shocked to learn that they're going to carry the full weight of this. And why is this important, Madam Speaker? Because the $10.1 billion, 10.9, so almost $11 billion, and that's not building in even inflationary costs. This is half of the entire highway project projections for Ontario. So somewhere along the lines, this Premier and this Minister of Transportation made a decision that other highway projects are not going to happen because they're not budgeted for. So you've decided to prioritize a poorly planned, a poorly thought out, a damaging highway at the expense of other communities. And I'm thinking of Highway 69, for instance. I mean, those in Northern Ontario, they have no other options, right? The member from Sudbury and then the member from Nickel Belt raised this very clearly when they were speaking about what their commute is like to this place and how dangerous it is, Madam Speaker. However, this auditor goes on to say, with regards to the fall economic statement, Ontario taxpayers are in the dark on costs. The situation is the same for Guelph, the area Morriston bypass. If the minister can tease taxpayers about Highway 413's $350 million per year construction contribution to the provincial GDP, he should disclose the financial commitment for these projects. And do you think that that's fair? I think it's fair for the Minister of the Finance and the Minister of Transportation to be transparent with the people that we serve. I don't think that's actually asking too much. A few details, yeah. I mean, it's a lot of money. It's still a lot of money. I mean, this could be in the gas plant scandal category. We don't know yet, right? Because we haven't seen the numbers, and we haven't seen the research that proves that the road is worthy of our consideration. We haven't seen the price tag, and when I say price tag, I also mean what are the other infrastructure projects that are not going to happen? Because the Premier fast-tracked Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass. Where did they have these conversations? Was it at the Associate Minister's father's golf course, where they shoot in 9 holes and say, you know what, I think that we should save holes 2, 3, and 11 and not put this Bradford bypass through this golf course? I mean, yeah, is that how we're doing business now in Ontario? Do you have to have a golf membership to figure out where's the transportation strategy? So given the minister's silence, the preliminary 2021 cost calculations are needed for these 3 projects This auditor came out with $10.9 billion, $8.2 billion for Highway 413, $2.2 billion for the Bradford bypass, and $530 million for the Morrison bypass. But the calculations, admittedly, are based on previous estimates, cost per kilometre of highway and 5% annual construction inflation. And so it is well within, our rights to question these numbers. And because inflation is a major factor now in today's world. And he actually speculates on tolls. The update labels the two bypasses as freeways. Highway 413 is a 400 series highway, suggesting tolls. So even though the Premier has said, don't worry, there's not going to be any tolls. Listen, we've heard this before. Yeah. It was called the 407, that's right? We bought, we paid for, we toiled for the Highway 407, which will run parallel to Highway 413. And this leads me to a really interesting conversation. And it's an interesting conversation because I wrote a letter last week to the auditor and asked her, this government says, oh, we're so transparent, we put all our cards on the table. We can't even see the table, Madam Speaker. So I wrote to Bonnie Lizick, our Auditor General of Ontario, on November 10th. I referenced the point because the media, to their credit, pushed the Premier for some answers on how much these projects were going to cost. And so I said, this week the Premier announced that the people of Ontario would be on the hook for two highway projects, Highway 413 and the Bradford bypass, but refused to release total cost estimates or budgets for either. However, an independent forensic accountant recently suggested the cost would be $10 billion. Since the Premier has not allocated additional dollars to the highways budget, he must be sacrificing multiple highway construction and upgrade projects. To date, they have not publicly stated which projects will be sacrificed. So before any decisions are made with regards to these two projects, even though I could argue quite successfully that they are not needed and they will not solve the congestion problem, the government needs to tell us and probably some of their own members which projects in your ridings are going to get cancelled because of this politically motivated Highway 413. So equally important, I said to the Auditor General in this letter, which is also public, these two highways are not expected to substantially reduce commute times or congestion, yet they are expected to have a massive financial benefit to people who have donated to the PC Party. And this is well documented. I have the report, the investigation report. Developers with ties to the Ford government stand to cash in on Highway 413. It's an expose of who owns land along the 413, who will financially benefit from this decision. And I put this question, quite honestly, to the members on that side of the House. What is the return on the investment for the people who've paid for it? So the report that the Liberals who scrapped this idea, not only because of political, pressure from communities, and not only because they were already scandal-ridden, but also because a panel evaluated the Highway 413 and deemed that it would save only 30 seconds, and that the risk to the environment was consequential to the decision as to whether to move forward with this infrastructure project. So I've just said to the Auditor General, I think that spending that amount of public money when priorities for reducing congestion through massive transit investment is needed is unwise and needs full accounting, especially because, as a total share of highways infrastructure spending, these two projects would consume nearly half of the total 10-year budget for construction. I go on to say I believe Ontarians deserve to know exactly how these projects have been proposed, who is driving these projects, and prioritized over so many more important investments that the province desperately needs. And this letter to the auditor really is, the only avenue that I have as an MPP and as the finance critic for Her Majesty's official opposition, because, Madam Speaker, I was actually denied a briefing. And this is the first time that this has happened in this House. And I've been the finance critic for a very, very long time, that I've been denied. I want to look at the numbers. I mean, I like to follow the money. I mean, when you follow the money, you follow the real priorities of the government. And budgets, in my view, are in very, blank terms, moral documents. They tell the story of what a government is willing to do to serve the people that were elected. Right now, I see a small group of people benefiting from the moving and accelerating Highway 413. I see that very clearly. The public has growing to see it. The Bradford bypass, I'm going to get to that in a second because it's more complex in some ways. But I started to go down this discussion about where the money is going and why are we spending certain places and not. And the same day that I wrote a letter to the Auditor General, my colleague from Orleans, he wrote the Auditor General as well, and he says, he wrote, this is also a public letter, I'm writing today following media reports that Minister Mulroney met with Highway 407 management on April 19th, 2021 to discuss the forgiveness of penalties for failing to meet contractual obligations. On behalf of Ontarians, I'm formally requesting an investigation. Why is he asking for an investigation? That, he goes on to say that this government claims to be using every tool at its disposal to address gridlock. Yet, reports have exposed that the minister didn't even request that lowering of tolls in exchange for nearly $1 billion in forgiveness from penalties. $1 billion. Are we really a province who can afford to forgive a large conglomerate who owns 407, which was wrongfully sold away from the people of this province by the former Harris government? Are we really in a financial position to forgive $1 billion in contractual penalties to the 407 conglomerate, international conglomerate? He goes on to say, it is clear that the government has made no effort to negotiate on behalf of the people of Ontario, and the consequence is more gridlock and nearly $1 billion in immediate costs. Experts have highlighted that Highway 407 lowering or eliminating its tolls would provide the same relief from gridlock as Highway 413 might when it is completed. So you have clear evidence that the Minister of Transportation met with a multi-billion-dollar organization who failed to meet their contractual obligations to the people of Ontario, and all of a sudden we're okay with forgiving $1 billion in penalties. So, when you follow the money and you examine the priorities of this government, you can see very clearly that they are not in the corner of the people of Ontario. And this is very concerning because we need to recover, and it needs to be a shared economic recovery. And you've put all your apples in one basket on highways. And the only reason that you would do that is because there are people along that highway who will have already made $813,000 in contributions to the party. I mean, they've made contributions across the spectrum, but nowhere near almost $1 billion, Madam Speaker. So here we are, a fall economic statement that missed the opportunity to invest in the very people that kept us safe, like nurses, a cut to public education when we have well-documented learning interruption, and this would be the time and the place to actually invest in education. And to their credit, the elementary teachers of Ontario made this point to the government, is that this was a complete missed opportunity to demonstrate and try to reevaluate, or if not rejig, the relationship that you have with the education community, because it's not a good relationship. They don't trust you. You refuse to listen to them and consult with them. You're heavy-handed with your policies, and then at the end of the day, after 20 months, after the longest closure of our schools across the country, Ontario students suffered the most Madam Speaker. What do? You remove $500 million in base funding. I don't understand how somebody on that side of the aisle at the cabinet table would not have said, Minister of Finance, is this really a good idea for the future of the province of Ontario to cut $500 million from education? I hope that somebody on that side raised it. We're going to fight it, of course. I mean, that is who we are. And now you've given us there's so many questions on what is driving this government now with 200 days left before the election. I mean, is it all political opportunism, or is there any hope to reverse course on some of these cuts, including housing, Madam Speaker? The 413, though, is gaining momentum, and you won't hear the Premier say this in one of his stand-ups behind a dump truck, but the municipalities have weighed in, as have some Conservatives. And so it's not just a New Democrat thing that we have raised legitimate concerns about the validity of this highway, because you can't question this, because the evidence and the research is actually on our side. But in the Independent Free Press, and this was from February 18th, 2021, and I never thought I would ever do this, but I would like to introduce you to the op-ed written by PC member Michael Chong. And he wrote about Highway 413, and he says, the Government of Ontario is planning a new 400 series highway north of Vaughan to the 407, 401. This 50-kilometre highway would not only chew up thousands of acres of prime farmland, it would also cost a staggering $6 billion at minimum. The highway, also known as Highway 413, would not reduce congestion. An expert panel estimated it would reduce commute by 30 seconds. That's right, $6 billion in taxpayer money to save 30 seconds in a daily commute. Many studies have shown that building highways does not reduce congestion. If building highways was the solution, Los Angeles would be traffic-free. The solution is to expand rapid transit. I agree with Michael Chong. Also, something I never thought I would say. Optimize the existing road network. Also, I agree. The highway also flies in the face of Canada's commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2030, only 9 years from now. Michael Chong, PC member, goes on to say, building new highways that increase miles driven is one of the reasons why tailpipe emissions from cars and trucks account for 25% of Canada's emissions. And he goes on to say, I work closely with MPP Ted Arnott and Mayor Rick Bonnett alongside Halton Hills Council and staff, and in 2011, we all worked together to successfully oppose another highway planned for Halton Hills, the alternative 4 to 3. He goes on to say, many constituents have expressed concerns about the highway. These are not downtown activists. These are people who live in his riding. And he goes on to say, I share these concerns. I have formally expressed my opposition in writing to the Ontario Transportation Minister Caroline Mulroney, to MPP Arnott, and have also spoken to the Minister to express my concerns. The benefits of this new highway are far outweighed by the adverse impact that will have on our climate, our environment, and our community. He goes on to say, and he ends his op-ed by saying, the GTA West Highway should not be built. He can be reached at michael.chong.a3@parle.gc.ca. I think I'm going to send him a note, Speaker, and thank him for his leadership as a PC member in fighting Highway 413. An editorial last week on 413, and this is another thing I thought I would never ever say, but this editorial was called Politics Not Logic is Behind Doug Ford's New Drive to Build Highway 413. So politics, not logic, is behind this highway. And then he goes on to say, anyone who isn't on board, so this is the Premier saying he's going to, anybody who doesn't agree with him is a Greater Toronto Area downtown activist. And so this is the new rhetoric. I mean, we hear it all the time, right? It's like buck a beer. It's right up there with the buck a beer. And he goes on to say, just hop on your bicycle, get behind a horse and a buggy. But then this editorial from the Toronto Star goes on to say, it's true that the kind of people Ford thinks of downtown activists, they do oppose poorly thought out infrastructure projects like Highway 413, but just in time for next June's provincial election. But boy, do they ever have a lot of allies, Madam Speaker, in the very areas that the Premier says will benefit most from this big build. So the municipal councils who now are against Highway 413, and it's a growing number, is Mississauga, Vaughan Council, Halton Hills Council, Halton Region Council. They are all on record now as opposing Highway 413. Councils in Brampton, Caledon, Peel, which have called for the federal environmental assessment of the project before it gets the green light. So these asking for an updated environmental assessment is a reasonable and rational thing to do. I'll tell you why. The current EA is 25 years old. So a lot has changed in Ontario. A lot has changed about our own knowledge. Like, you just can't pick up, an environmentally sensitive wetland and replace it and build it someplace else, which has already happened with 3 MZOs in and around the Caledon Hills. And the reason I say that is that we fought this regressive development because this is the pay to slay. There's not enough money to replace a 1,000-year-old wetland, Madam Speaker. You just can't pick it up and move it someplace else. And we know that right now. Now, this is where the downtown activist gets a little bit interesting, because in this editorial from the Toronto Star, they go on to say, listed, for example, to that noted downtown activist, Bonnie Crombie, the mayor of Mississauga. I mean, she would not be happy, I'm fairly certain, but I'm very happy right now to be able to get this on the record. And she goes on to say, and this is a quote from the mayor of Mississauga, Hazel McCallion's successor, "The proposed GTA West Highway will have a disastrous impact on the environment, encourage residential sprawl, and increase our dependence on cars," she said back in February. And then it goes on to say, Rick Bonnet, who's the mayor of Halton Hills, "This will lead to more urban sprawl as developers will be building houses along the new route. Adding a highway is like Homer Simpson loosening his belt buckle at a buffet, thinking he is not going to gain weight." So people are trying to get their concerns on the record. They're trying to get the ear of this government. The question remains, though, Madam Speaker, who is this government listening to? Because it isn't the residents of Mississauga and Halton Hills and Peel. The government says that any decision about going ahead with this massive project, which was shelved by the Liberals, would depend on more consultation and study. However, they've streamlined the study, and they've streamlined the consultation process, and they've promised a new watered-down, no pun intended, environmental assessment. That's not going to take as long. Like, this project, since 2018, has moved ahead and leapfrogged very important infrastructure projects across the province. And we value infrastructure projects. We know that they can create job creation. We know that they can be good for the economy. Finishing the rest of Highway 69, putting that out to tender and accelerating that, we would be 100% in support of that, because there are health and safety and economic considerations with that project. That project is not like Highway 413, which is promising to correct a problem like congestion by creating more congestion. This is not the solution. It is not. So it goes on to say is that one of the reasons that the Liberal government cancelled this is that it just created more old-fashioned sprawl. In other words, locking in the problem for decades. So we have, and this project also. I mean, the way that the Premier talks about it is like he thinks that people are going to automatically not be sitting in their cars. This project won't be done until 2030 at a minimum, Madam Speaker. Like, some of us won't be here. Some of us won't be here in 200 days. One can hope. So the fact of the matter is that this promise of this, fast-tracking this highway is being driven by only political interests, and those interests lie squarely in the Premier's office. And that, after going through a challenging, devastating pandemic, really is unconscionable, I think, having seen how this government operates. So the concerns continue to mount based on how how things are proceeding, and based on a fall economic statement that didn't have any numbers attached to it. These major infrastructure projects. I will say the other project that is very uncomfortable is the Bradford bypass. And I just want to be straight up about this. Like, the fact that the Minister of Transportation visited the Associate Minister of Transportation's father's golf and country club, which was directly in the path of the Bradford bypass, put him, and I think the whole government, in a really untenable position. Because if it is a huge stretch, one of those Liberal stretch goals, to imagine that on March, at the Silver Lakes Golf Course, the Minister of Transportation and the future Associate Minister of Transportation wouldn't mention that, hey, there's going to be a bypass going through here. That is asking the suspension of belief of the people that we serve is really quite insulting. And this is all well documented. I mean, it was a public Facebook post from March 23rd, and it reveals that the previous week the golf course hosted the Minister of Transportation as well as the Associate Minister of Transportation, whose father is the co-owner of the course. Now, it's totally great that somebody owns is a co-owner of a golf course. I have no issues with that. But if there is a proposed major infrastructure project that was supposed to go through that, and then 4 weeks after that visit, that bypass is no longer cutting through that golf course with no rationale, no documentation, no transparency about why that happened. Listen, if you are honest with yourselves, and this happened on our side, I want to say, honestly, I don't know anybody who co-owns a golf course, but if that happened, you would be calling us out without a doubt, and rightfully so. I mean, for the love of humanity, you just don't, you don't visit a golf course and then the infrastructure project that had been planned to go through that very golf course for years, all of a sudden gets picked up and moved over, and displaces more families, more Ontarians, more green belt, more environmentally sensitive land. There's no clear reason or rationale as to why the minister and the associate minister would be at the golf course at the same time in March. There just isn't. So, when I asked this question, I have to say, I mean, the response I got from the Minister of Transportation, I mean, to be fair to her, I mean, she was really back on her heels because the optics of this stink. I mean, the whole thing about how the Bradford bypass is now accelerated, the course has changed, there's no transparency, there's no economic evaluation, there's no explanation about the return on investment, and now, this premier saved a golf course. Where the premier needs to be focused his attention is down on University Avenue, where the nurses and the frontline healthcare workers are completely at their wits' end, and you offer them pennies by way of an increase. I mean, that's where we should be focused. We should be focused on our educators. We should be focused on our nurses. We should be focused on the PSWs, our early childhood educators who are dealing with a whole new group of young minds who have gone through a pandemic. I mean, that is where we should be investing our time and our energy to ensure that everybody can recover. But what is this premier talking about? He's saved a golf course. Yeah. Well, there you go. Ontarians now know that the main beneficiaries of this $1.5 billion 4 to 6 lane bypass, I believe it could be, well, the independent auditor said $2.2 billion, and there could be inflationary costs built into that as well. But, I mean, the question remains, why did the Bradford bypass get fast-tracked? Who is driving those decisions? And why, after, because we're still in the 4th wave of a pandemic, why is this your priority? honestly, like, invest in transit. You know, you made an announcement about a GO train from London. Who is going to get on a 3.5-hour GO train from London? I mean, who's going to do that? Make it faster, make it efficient, make it work for commuters, get more cars off the road, invest in public transit. I mean, this is where the return on the investment is, and people don't want to be stuck on the 401. They would rather have an accelerated train from London to Toronto. I mean, I would rather take the GO train, but 2 hours and 20 minutes is still a long time from KW. I think it's actually 4 hours from London, which is really prohibitive. So here we are, Madam Speaker. We have a growing number of municipalities who are weighing in against Highway 413. We have a government who's doubling down and digging in and pretending that this highway is going to be the salvation for commuters. It's the disconnect, the dissonance is astounding, because this is not the answer. And surely the fiscal conservatives over there may be a few hawks. You must have some concerns about a price tag of almost $10.9 billion but is not costed out and is not part of the overall transit strategy, the transportation strategy. I mean, somebody on that side says, you know what, can we just see the numbers? We'd like to see the numbers. I'd like a briefing from the ministry, and I'd like to see the numbers. I'd also like to see the research and the report that the Premier refuses to come forward, which says that, you know, hours and hours, he says, that this highway would save people. Well, I could successfully argue and challenge that assertion, Madam Speaker. So here we are. We have the nurses in Ontario who, and this is from, I believe it's North Bay News, nurses are looking for some leadership and some courage from this Premier around vaccines so that we don't end up in another lockdown in Ontario. The Nurses Association from Bay Today are displeased with Ford's lack of courage on the vaccine mandate. And goes on to say, the Ontario Registered Nurses Association said it is deeply disappointed that Premier Ford is backing off on COVID-19 vaccine requirements for all professional health care workers. And they're not alone. I mean, this makes no sense unless you're pandering to a certain group of people. And that is downright irresponsible, Madam Speaker. Individual hospitals are on their own. I know that you're well acquainted with what's happened in Windsor. I mean, they took a leadership position very early in it. But this is from the same article, and it's dated 2 weeks ago. It says, the RNAO accused Premier Ford of being afraid to do what was right for the province. You don't want to mess with the nurses. I don't understand why I have to say this in the House, but they've accused Ford of being afraid to do what was right for the province. And this is a direct quote. This decision by Premier Ford is a disgrace and shows a lack of courage to do what's right for Ontario's patients and workers, to not implement a province-wide vaccination policy for all healthcare workers, puts the burden unfairly on employers and imposes a risk of infection on Ontario's receiving health services. And that is Doris Greenspun. She goes on to say the majority of hospital CEOs have already weighed in and provided their support for mandatory vaccination for healthcare workers. To not act immediately and go against the evidence is irresponsible. I want to say publicly that we as a caucus share that view, which is why we have continued to bring forward motions to the table, which is why I brought forward a private member's motion to the floor of this legislature. And even during that time, government members said, we'll wait for the Hospital Association to weigh in, we'll wait for the science. And yet when the science table and when the hospitals recommended a mandatory vaccine, you still did not listen. And so it goes back to my original comments that, you know, who are you listening to? Because it does appear, by looking at, you know, how the fall economic statement is crafted, at why you don't have a strategic investment in staff retention for PSWs, for hospital workers, for nurses. like who is driving the agenda over there? Because it's certainly, I mean, and this is how we feel in this House. I mean, when we go back to our ridings, we talk to the restaurants and the small businesses who many of whom did not qualify for even the small business grant. And then you see the contrast where the Minister of Transportation meets with the 407 conglomerate and says, yeah, $1 billion in forgiveness penalties, we can handle that, but you're charging small businesses 7% on their loans after they carried us through the pandemic? Like, where are your priorities? Where is your loyalty? Is it only along this Highway 413 and this Bradford bypass? And why are you hitching your whole election campaign to an infrastructure project that will not solve the problem of congestion? It will not generate the result that you claim that you want. And so Madam Speaker, I mean, at the end of the day, the fact that we have such a transactional premier is clearly at odds with our goals and the oath that we take as legislators when we come into this place. And we say that we are going to put the people that we serve first and foremost. Well, I can tell you the optometrists of Ontario don't think that that's happening. I can tell you that early childhood educators in the province don't think that's happening, or PSWs, or nurses. And so it is really time for a reset. And one only has to review the investigation into the developers. This was done by Emma McIntosh, Steve Boost, and Noor Javid. And this came actually out last April. And I can tell you, like, it reads a little bit like an episode of Succession. It's, and we have enough of a pattern of behavior here by this government that is very concerning for how planning infrastructure projects actually happens. And this is dated from April 3rd, 2021, and it reads, the province has a way for developers to skip the wait. So you've created a way for developers to have a fast track right through this place. They're called Minister's Zoning Orders, or MZOs, and the Ford government has used more of them since 2018 than the previous government did in 15 years. The orders are made by the Municipal Affairs Minister, and in the face of mounting criticism, are unappealable. So we have seen a steady decline in, protecting the rights of the citizens, and therefore undermining our democracy under this government. It goes on to say that the Ford government MZOs cleared the way for projects near Highway 413. One issued in Vaughan in April 2020 approved developers' plans to demolish 3 protected wetlands, where development is normally forbidden, and replace them with a massive Walmart distribution centre, and the land sits near the point where the 413 would join Highway 400. When people read this, I mean, they're already cynical enough about, governments, about what drives governments, what drives us as politicians. Like, how do you make a decision to run, then come to this place, and then on climate change, on progressive planning principles with regards to our environment, how do you decide, that part is expendable? I can let that part go. Matt Elliott also wrote, he's a contributing columnist, and he put this out last week. He says there's 3, this actually piece is called Ford plans to spend billions on building highways. Here are 3 reasons that this is absurd. The first one, of course, is that all of this was taking place while COP26 conference in Glasgow was happening, and it was a bit embarrassing. He says the first absurdity, the same week Ford's government was releasing this highway heavy plan, international leaders were gathered in Glasgow for the COP2 conference to talk about climate change. That's embarrassing. The second, he goes on to make, this is a very valid point, he says, it seems darn near certain that the mobility of the mid-2030s, when Highway 413 would realistically open, will be different than today. Yes, that's absolutely for sure. This plan is an old, recycled plan that does not meet the needs of Ontarians for 2021. It is fiscally irresponsible, it is environmentally irresponsible, and it is driven by outside interests that do not serve the people of this province. And then finally it says, he goes on to say, and I'll leave you with this, Madam Speaker, because the hour went fast and I didn't get through a lot of the stuff I wanted to, but he goes on to say, with all this change coming, betting big on the highways in 2021 feels like betting big on the fax machine in the mid-1990s as the communication technology of the future. We agree this is a wrong-headed infrastructure project to invest in. I think you have underestimated the people of this province. They are going to fight it, and the federal government should do an environmental assessment which puts this back at the back of the filing cabinet well past 2030, if ever. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for your time.